Right, at this stage now we're going to use as paint. We are basing this door out to wood grain and we're going to use an acrylic eggshell. We try to use a decent quality paint because it makes us life a lot easier. Now, opening the tin of paint, please don't use the corner of the scraper. It bends the scraper, it makes a mess of your scraper and it renders your tool as good as useless. If you're going to use a scraper, push it in and slide it and use the edge. We have proper tools to open paint. I mean, you'll get things like this, or even if not, a flat screwdriver. They don't use a lot of flat screwdrivers nowadays. There's usually something on and it's straightforward, we just pop it up. Now, because we've got our lid off at the moment, we're going to use a stirring stick. We're going to give it a stir. Make sure that there's no pigment in there. Some people like working straight out of the tin. I don't mind working out of a tin, especially an half-gallon one, but it's much better practice to work out of a paint kettle. Even if it's a small job, I still prefer that paint kettle. Wipe your stirring stick off. We don't want lots of paint on a stirring stick. Now, remember, once you've wiped your stirring stick off, where you're going to put it. Try not to put it on the floor, because if you put it on the floor, there's every chance you're going to stand on it. Once you've stood on it, it'll be under your feet and it'll be across somebody's carpet, or it'll go through dust sheet. You've got your lid. A good place at this time is to put it on lid. Right, decanting paint and a cloth is what we're going to. A damp cloth is a decorator's best friend. A good decorator always has a damp cloth. We do make mistakes. Don't let anybody kid you that we don't. It happens. It's not about making mistakes. It's about, if you make them, knowing how to get out of them. We're going to decant as paint. When we store paint, we'll always store it with the label and the handle to the front. So you'll go on a lot of firms, especially the more, shall we say, who cater for the higher class clientele, and they always pour out of the back of the tin. We don't want a lot of paint in there. We've got to carry it at the end of the day, and if we put too much in, we've only got to wipe it back when we've finished. Wipe the back and it's in the tin. It's as easy as that. So we've gone off the back. Yeah, but it's got all read those before we've started. So we've got a clean tin now. Once we pop our lid back on, it's clean and tidy. For the time being, I'm going to put the lid back on, because what we don't want is as joiners or as electricians working close by or as plumbers. They have a tendency to see our paint, and if the lid's off, it's liable to get contaminated. They do laugh at us when we pull an old woman's stocking out. The reason we have that old woman's stocking is because if they see a bit of paint what's on them, they always manage to get some sawdust in it or some dust in it, and we need that stocking to sieve as paint to get that out again. So we've got us paint. I haven't got a lot of paint in there. I don't want a lot of paint in there. I'm going to hold the paintbrush in my hand. Now, we've already gone to say that it can be all right and you can have a bit of fun on a work site, but the opposite can happen. And if you're attracting attention, people will look at you close. If you're doing things correctly, people won't look at you close. There's a thing about the hinges. Now, we've always had a rule of thumb on hinges, and the rule of thumb is if it's steel, we would paint it. If it's brass, we would cut it in. Now, also, they used to use a lot of flathead screws, and the joiners would go with the screws, and they would always turn the flathead screw so it was at 12 to 6 o'clock. And the reason they did that, as they tell you quite frequently, was we have to put them on like that because your painters fill them up and paint runs out. So straight away, every time we come across a hinge what a joiner had put on, if he hadn't put his screw on at 6 o'clock, you know, "Oi, wood butcher, you've got this one wrong." And that's the way it goes. But the same will reply in the other direction. They get taught about doors. They'll know which way that door should be painted. The other thing is, as we're working on this door now, we're going to paint the edge first. We paint the edge what we get seen. The edge we see is this one at this stage. So I'm going to put my paint in and I'm going to tap it on the side of the kettle. The reason I'm tapping that brush on the side of the kettle is so the paint's not dripping everywhere. I want it to be clean and tidy. When I finish with this, I don't want a brush what's full with paint all the way down to this stock, because all I'm going to end up with is a floppy mess. So I want to keep this as clean as I can. If that's clean and this is clean, I'm clean. If I'm clean and tidy, everything's looking well. You've got a customer comes on, she says, he says, that's good. That decorator who came on was really good. He was clean, he was tidy. I mean, if they've got a £3,000 suite or a nice expensive telly, the last thing they want is a painter and decorator who's full of, and he's got all paint all over him. Because, well, you know, don't you? If somebody comes on your house, and that's the secret. Look at yourself first and think, if that person did that to my house, would I be happy? And if the answer's no, then please don't do it. Right. Remembering again, and I'm trying to emphasise this because for no other reason than when it comes to the end test and the awarding bodies, we don't paint that edge on their questions. We're now going to start from where that question will start. We're going to paint as panels. As panels were as number one. So in, tap it on side. We don't need a lot of paint. We'll get just as far without all that paint. We're going to paint the whole panel. We want to be spreading this paint out. If your paint's going to run, especially on a panel door, it's going to be off these corners. That one and that one. That's why you'll find that we tend to start at the top of these panels. If we start at the top of the panels, we've worked the paint out by the time we get to there, and hopefully it's not going to run. I'm telling you it's not going to run. Check it. Double check it. You never know. It's better to check and be safe than not be safe. So, yet again, I've started at the top of the door, panel. I'm working across. I'm right-handed. I've started at the top of the right-hand panel. If I was left-handed, I'd have started at the left-hand panel. And I'm going to work down this door. A good quality paint covers well. It's got its advantages. A poor quality paint means you're putting more coats of paint on. Same again, look, my brush is quite clean and tidy. I like to give learners a new brush when they start. The reason I like to give a learner a new brush when they start is I know there's bristles coming out of it, and they know that. But I also know that when they give me that brush back, they've cleaned it properly. Because if they've cleaned it properly, that brush will look after them, and they'll look after that brush. You'll look after your tools will look after you. At the same time as doing the panels, I'm fetching the beadings in. I don't want to be going back for the beadings. When it comes to holding the brush, there's a lot of people do it in different ways. You need to be comfortable. You're going to be doing it for a long time. It's not going to take us long to teach you how to use a roller. Most of your work is going to be done with a brush. You want to be comfortable. Use your thumb and use your fingers. Your fingers put your pressure on and your thumb is there for balance. You will see people holding end at brush like this, flop, 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 flop. You've got no control. Your wrist has got no control. It's not right. And if it's not right, we don't do it. Like I say, and I'll keep saying it, people will be watching you. If you look like you're doing it right, nobody's going to question the thing you do. If you start making mistakes and people pick up on them, they'll be winding you up all day long. And what's more, they'll be looking closer. If you know what you're doing, you're confident. They can laugh and have a bit of fun. And if anybody comes and you know exactly what you're doing, you're confident. You know it's a bit of fun. If you're half hesitant that what you're doing is right or wrong, then straight away they'll pick up on that. I know for a long time we used to work on the pubs and we'd be hanging wallpaper quite a lot, and it got drilled into us so much that you had to get that first piece straight. And it wasn't for any other reason, well, apart from doing it correctly, but You know, everybody's there, they've had 2 or 3 pints, and they're all clock of works, aren't they? You needed to know for your own peace of mind that your work were right. And as soon as you knew that that paper was spot on, didn't matter what they said, you could fire it back as much as you wanted and win them. However, you could always tell the lads who wasn't confident, because what they'd do is they bite. Straight away they bite. You know, oh, that's not straight, old lad. Now, your eyes aren't either. You want to take that beer down and start going on halves or something. You know, easy, isn't it? If you know you're right, you can have that bit of confidence. And that bit of confidence gives you the strength to go on and have a bit of fun. These doors, if you know you're painting that door right, you can also help your friends. A lot of the old tradesmen are going to help you. They're not going to stand there, and especially our younger lads or lasses who's on site. The tradesmen are there to support and help. They don't want somebody who can't do the job. So if they can help you, they will. But they will also do the opposite. If they can have a bit of fun with you, they'll do that. If we get a bristle, flick it out with the side of the brush. That came quite quickly, that one. So we flick them out with the side of the brush, catch them. I like to put things in my pouch. I know there's all sorts in pouch at the end of the day, but that's all it is. It takes me 2 seconds just to go like that with my pouch at the end of the day and pour it all into a bin. So we've got as panels completed. If you remember now, we're going on to the muntins. But just look at my brush at this stage. I haven't got that floppy mess. I've still got a nice solid stock there. I've still got plenty of brush to work with. And no matter how long I work with this brush, it'll stop that way if you follow what we're showing you. So, we're going to work out this time. Remember to go with the grain. You want to be laying off with the grain of the wood. So whichever way that wood goes, you want to be laying off in that direction. In this case, with the muntins, it's up and down. So we're going to be laying off up and down. It is a new brush, this one. There will be bristles coming out. But like I said before, we're trying to invent problems. Because if you get those problems, you want to be able to see how we deal with them. If we deal with them all right, you can deal with them all right. If we don't deal with them, then you're not going to know how to work them. The best brush for this job is one that's been used a few times and it's worn down a little bit because it's a bit stronger. Same with if you're glossing. You want to be able to get that power behind it. So if it's been worn down a bit, it's a lot easier to use. So we've done as panels, we've gone on to do as muntins. We're now going to take on as cross rails. Now, the cross rails, the wood on the cross rails goes in a different direction. And each time, we're going slightly past where we want to be. And we're going to lay off in the direction of the wood grain. Same again, in, tap it on side, and away we go. At this stage, I'm going to be checking these. I like to think I don't get runs, but sometimes if you're using a poor quality paint or if you haven't quite laid it off properly, you will get those runs, and that's your place, those corners. If you're going to check first, check there. Same again, in. Now at this stage, I want you to just look at cutting in. As I come to the edge of these doors, I mean, it's a lovely paint, this. I mean, was it Dulux, this one? But it is a nice paint. But all we do, we bend his brush back and we just slide it down. Yeah, and the same at the other side, slide it down. We're going to start slightly away from what we're cutting in. You'll see this a lot better when we come to walls and ceilings. As first piece is going on in the middle, we're going to work it out gradually and slide it down. Now, why do we use the side of the brush and not the flat of the brush? It's a lot easier to control. If I'm using the side of the brush, that's how much I've got to control. If I'm using the flat of the brush, we've got all that to control. So, it's that or it's that. Right, I'm on the last style now, the lock style. So we're very close now to completing the door. We haven't got any misses. The type of things we're looking for at this stage is runs, heel toe marks, bristles, curtains and misses. And hopefully we haven't got any. So that's as completed door. If you look at the brush, it's very clean and very tidy still, so we can work clean and tidy. If you look how long it's took us to paint the door, it's not been a lot of time, has it? So to do it right isn't as hard as you think. So just try and follow that simple setup what we've put for you, and do your own doors, and things should go quite smoothly.